Hey everybody, Dr. Bill Diamond, Team Doctor here. Today I want to talk about 5 of the common ways organizations struggle to respond to a critical incident. Maybe somebody's passed away, maybe there's been an accident, maybe there's a huge merger, acquisition, job restructuring, change. And I just want to say, hey, no shame in the game. It is difficult to know how to respond best. I've had the opportunity to respond to hundreds of these over the last number of decades. And I thought I would just share the top 5 things that I see that organizations can struggle with and maybe think ahead about how they may deliver the services they want to support their people in a better way. First thing is that many people struggling with the need to get production back and to reach out to their vendors and customers and to not drop the ball, they tend to communicate business as usual too quickly. And that can give the understanding to the employee that just move on. And that's not the intent for many organizations, but that is how it is received. Not giving sufficient time for people to grieve, to not be at top capacity, to stop and get some support. We see that all too often. Number two, many organizations, and I'm thinking of a great one that I work with recently, have great plans to support their employees throughout the whole process of grief and memorial services and rituals and counseling, but they don't communicate that very well. And so by the time they get around to actually delivering that, it's been several days. And the affected department or people begin to have the impression that the organization doesn't care, but they've been busy trying to work through all the logistics, talk to the family, HR is involved, all this. And by the time they tell the affected employees this is what is going to be happening, they're already feeling abandoned and lost and upset. And it doesn't need to be that way. So even if you don't have all your plans in place, it's good to stop by right away and say, here's what we're working on. We'll keep you posted. We're here for you, et cetera. Number 3, sometimes organizations struggle when they hear a lot of questioning and anger and why did this happen and it didn't need to happen and we should have done this and why didn't we do this? But I want to let you know that this period, this type of conversation is a natural part of the grief process. And if an organization's leadership gets defensive or tries to shut that down prematurely, it doesn't work well. Eventually, those feelings will begin to be modified as more information comes in and changes happen. But when you hear that, just know that that is right where your employees need to be as they process the grief, particularly something that is pretty traumatic. And then the number 4 thing that I see is deciding whether or not a group needs help by asking them right after something happens and they're in shock and they can't even tell you. In contrast, even if people don't make use of your services or don't come in for counseling or attend groups, they appreciate that somebody was there and they remember that. So sometimes asking them, do they want help right when something happens, just taking that poll from traumatized people, you're not going to get a lot of takers. And even when there aren't a lot of people who do reach out to a counselor, it is always good to provide that in some fashion, whether on site or virtual. People will remember that you did. And then one thing that can happen is there can be some geographic trauma when somebody is affected by someone's passing in a certain workspace with equipment where they can't avoid it. Maybe the person passes away in their office or with a machine or truck that is used all the time. Maybe geographically they can't get away from it. They have to process that room, that equipment, that location. And that can be so traumatic. So to be sensitive to that, to know that if that's handled in the proper way, people can work through that. But it makes it especially difficult when you are faced with the location of someone's passing and there's no escape from that. It's the nature of the job. Well, this is Dr. Bill Diamond, Team Doctor. I hope you've appreciated hearing some of the ways that organizations struggle, naturally so, when there's a trauma, and some things you can keep in mind so that it goes as smoothly as possible when you offer support. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.